Hello, my name's Andy Miller. I'm a reader, author and editor of books. I wrote The Year of Reading Dangerously, and I'm the co-host of Backlisted, the podcast that gives new life to old books. And last year, 2019, we put together an episode on Russell Hoban's Riddley Walker, a favourite book of mine, and John Mitchinson, the publisher with whom I do the podcast, and also our guests, the writer Max Porter and Dr. Una McCormack. We recorded that episode live at the Port Eliot Festival, and it's available on the internet for you to listen to at backlisted.fm or here as part of this symposium. So have a listen to that, because it was one of the most magical recording experiences we've ever had on Backlisted. And Riddley Walker is a dense and difficult book, some of whose meanings are obscure, deliberately so. And yet, to talk about it in front of an audience of several hundred people in the middle of the afternoon who probably had never read the book or even heard of it, and for Max and Una to read sections and have the whole atmosphere change, become electric in response to this peculiar mixture of Old English and futurism, was such a striking proof of Hoban's not merely talent as a writer, but ability to channel energy and time in his prose. And the reason why I say energy and time is that I had an experience with Riddley Walker while we were preparing that episode of Backlisted, and I'm just going to say a bit about that now. I live in this area. I've lived here for about 15 years, and it wasn't until I was rereading Riddley Walker and Russell Hoban's notes for it that I realised that the idea had come to him one day in 1974, quite a long while, 6 or 7 years before the book was published, during a visit to Canterbury Cathedral, which is near to where you are now and to where I live. And he talks specifically about standing, looking at a painting of the Legend of St. Eustace, which was made circa 1480. And the whole notion of the book coming to him in that moment. The painting of the Legend of St. Eustace is on the wall of the cathedral, and reading from the bottom upwards, it's the story of St. Eustace and his family from the 2nd century. It begins with his conversion and his vision of the crucified Christ in the antlers of a hunted stag. And it ends with the martyrdom and beatifying of the whole family. It's, and I use this word advisedly, an awesome piece of work. It's survival, too, of something from another culture expressed in a way which does and doesn't speak to us now, here in the 21st century, is one of the things that I think Hoban so brilliantly captures in Riddley Walker. And just as Russell Hoban was struck by the theme of progress, or the lack of it, through time in that moment, and which led him to write Riddley Walker, I really felt the energy that leads to somebody writing a book which even without the mechanics of explanation, which Backlisted or this symposium provides, can still speak to us, even though the language is mangled, even though we only recognise some elements of it and not others. And I stood there in the cathedral, and I was really struck then, forcefully, by the power of artistic expression, the power of the painting, the power of Hoban's adaptation of the painting and the environment and the moment in 1974 to create this novel which contains the spirit of all those things. And I then proceeded downstairs into the crypt at Canterbury Cathedral, which is the setting of one of the most spectacular sections of the novel, the stone forest. And I stood there looking at the mixture of candlelight and daylight coming through the stained windows. And once again, I felt, wow, what are these trees? What is this forest made of? I'm able to see this in one way and simultaneously in another, thanks to the vision being provided to me by the artist who made these pillars, and the artist all these centuries later writing about them. And whenever I think about Riddley Walker now, I think about it in those terms. It flashes on my mind standing there in the cathedral, and then in the crypt of the cathedral, and then in a tent in Cornwall trying to communicate some elements of that to an audience, and Russell Hoban's words making those things come together and pass on in turn to that audience who will have then gone out and read the book. So if you love Riddley Walker and you're interested in those ideas and those themes, and you're here in Canterbury, then maybe go to the cathedral and in a small act of secular pilgrimage, stop in front of the painting by St. Eustace, of St. Eustace, and offer up a prayer to whoever or whatever you deem is appropriate for Riddley Walker.